Okay, we ready? He's gonna be late. I don't know how late, but some late. We ready? Good? Okay. All right, good evening, everybody. The meeting is now convened at 5:11 p.m. I would like to ask that everybody please silence your cell phones. A quorum of the board members, hello, Mr. Ravon. Quorum of the board members is present in the board auditorium. They are, from my right, Cassandra Ozan Bandy, Michelle Cruz Arnold, Jeanette Garza Lindner, myself, Audrey Momanai, Rolando Martinez, and Adam Ravon. If there are any elected officials, I see a couple up front. Welcome. Please stand and be recognized. Thank you for being here with us. We will now be joined by a member of the Junior Reserve Officer Training Corps to lead our pledges. I would like to ask that board member Rolando Martinez introduce tonight's pledge leader.
Thank you, Vice President Momanai. Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Kaylin Vasquez is a senior at Heights High School and in her fourth year in the JROTC program. She serves as a battalion commander and oversees over 130 cadets. Cadet Vasquez is ranked in the top 20% of her class with a grade point average of 4.3. She is a web design magnet student in the technology career pathway, a member of the National Honor Society, president of the Astronomy Club, and has served as commander of the JROTC physical fitness team and the JROTC leadership and academic team. She has won numerous JROTC awards recognizing her academic and leadership accomplishments. She is also passionate about serving the community and has over 200 community service hours. Upon graduation, she plans to attend the University of Houston and major in graphic design. Cadet Vasquez, thank you.
Will you please rise for a moment of silent meditation? Thank you. Please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance and the pledge to the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now for the Texas pledge. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Thank you.
Thank you, Cadet Vasquez. Next, I would like to ask that board member Michelle Cruz Arnold please read our proclamation recognizing Women's History Month. Dr. Cruz Arnold. Yep.
Thank you. Whereas women have made significant contributions to the growth and strength of our city, state, and nation in countless ways, and whereas throughout our nation's history, women have been leaders in shaping our economy, culture, and values, building a foundation for strong families and communities across America, and whereas it is appropriate to gratefully acknowledge the skills, abilities, and achievements of all women who support excellence and success at every level of the Houston Independent School District, now, therefore, we, the HISD School Board, and the Superintendent of Schools do hereby proclaim March 2025 Women's History Month in HISD, and we encourage all to join in this observance, an expression of appreciation for the contributions of women. In witness thereof, on this 20th day of March 2025.
Thank you very much, Dr. Arnold. Now, I believe we have other recognitions by the superintendent. Sir, you have the floor.
Yes, ma'am. As noted in our Women's History Month proclamation, this is a time when we celebrate the achievements of women who continue to break barriers and inspire future generations in HISD. First, I would like to acknowledge the women who have served as board members in HISD. Thank you very much to the board members for their service. And tonight, we will be spotlighting several outstanding women within our district whose dedication and contributions make a lasting impact on our students. And we will spotlight a special group of students. Board member Cassandra Ozan Bandy will share the first recognition.
Thank you. At this time, we would like to take a moment to recognize a true trailblazer in our community, Chief Shamara D. Gardner. As the first Black female police chief at HISD, she has set a powerful example of leadership, dedication, and service. With 29 years of law enforcement experience, including 28 years with the Houston Police Department, Chief Gardner has demonstrated excellence in handling major investigations, fostering community relationships, and leading with integrity. Her commitment to serve and leadership across all areas of law enforcement has earned her numerous accolades and made her an inspiring role model. Chief Gardner, thank you for your commitment to protecting and serving our students and school communities. Will you please stand so we can recognize and celebrate you? One of HISD's true gems is the Young Women's College Preparatory Academy, which was established in 2011, boasting award-winning STEM programming, 100% college acceptance, and appearances on many top-ranked school lists. Continuing our celebration of excellence across HISD, we highlight Ms. Jennifer Simmons and her YWCPA 8th grade fundamentals of computer science students, Peyton Cunningham, Andrea Davis, Layden Malone, Ava Ford, Aaliyah Hughes. These students recently showcased their talents at Code at the Capitol, sponsored by the University of Texas Advancing Computing Center. These young women engaged in hands-on coding activities, presented their innovative project on mitigating flood road hazards to industry professionals, and explored the broad impact of computer science education. Wow. During their visit to the Texas State Capitol, they met with Senator Boris Miles and State Representative Jolanda Jones, gaining firsthand insight into the legislative process and the role of technology in shaping policy. Our lawmakers were inspired by these young women, and they know their budding leadership will strengthen Texas. Ms. Simmons and students, please stand and be recognized for your hard work and achievement. Finally, we celebrate Althea McWhorter, who has dedicated 44 years as a bus driver for HISD. Her commitment to the safety and well-being of our students has been unwavering. Known for her warmth, reliability, and professionalism, Althea has made a lasting impact on children, parents, and staff she served over the years. Reaching this incredible milestone is a testament to her dedication, and we are deeply grateful for the care and passion she brings to her work every day. Althea, if you are with us today, please stand and be recognized so we can celebrate you. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Ozan Bandi. These spotlights serve as a reminder of the dedication and excellence within our district. Thank you for joining us in celebrating their achievements.
Thank you. All right, we will now hear from two public officials, student speakers, and speakers wishing to address agenda items 1 through 5 in our public hearing regarding the Texas Academic Performance Report. Please note that Spanish live captioning is available for those viewing the meeting via live stream, and live Spanish interpretation is available in person in the auditorium. Public comment during school board meetings will only be available to those persons who have signed up to speak prior to the board meeting time per current protocol. Verbal and other disruptions by persons during the school board meetings are not acceptable, as they inhibit the board's ability to conduct business and the public's ability to observe those processes. Persons who participate in such behavior will be given one warning, and if the behavior is repeated, they will be asked to leave the meeting. Tonight, we have 52 registered speakers who will be limited to 1 minute each per board policy, as we have more than 30 people signed up to address the board tonight. We ask that you please stay on topic and refrain from naming individuals, especially students, as their identity is protected under the law, but you may name your own child. I ask that you please respect our procedures and the other speakers and end your comments promptly when your time is expired and the timer rings. We'll start with public officials. Will HISD Board of Education Trustee Savant Moore please come to the microphone, followed by Trustee Placido Gomez. Yes, sir.
Happy Women's History Month. To the Chief, thank you, because the community has brought so much to me, and you always address it on the same day. To all the women behind the scenes, the teachers, y'all truly are the backbone of HISD. Thank you to the superintendent at HISD for supporting Wheatley, Booker T. Washington, and Bear Lair in the state championship. Many of these children, for the first time, will go to college. So they may not have won the state championship, but they won the state championship for their neighborhoods. If people don't know it, I've been sick for the last 2 years. I know it's surprising. I've had sore throat. So 1,100 people joined me a few weeks ago at the state capitol. And on April 5th, 13,000 will join me to advocate for the basic allotment to be increased by $1,300 so that we can help the superintendent not have to close any schools, not have to take pay raises from teachers. So I'm asking my constituents, support us in this endeavor so that we can tell the world we're not closed. HISD is a great district, great academics, great community, great sports. People need to come to this district. And lastly, I'm not attending my 4th funeral out of 2 weeks. To everyone, I love you. I love my constituents. The things that we fight about is not that big of a deal. We are all here because we care about students and teachers. So let's work together to make our community what it already is. That's great, but great. God bless you and God bless HISD.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Mr. Gomez?
Good evening. I'm a little disappointed to see that student surveys were taken out of the final draft of the teacher evaluation system. And I was a little surprised about the arguments that were made. For example, the idea that students would penalize teachers who are strict but effective in the classroom doesn't ring true to me as a former teacher. Because contrary to popular belief, students actually want to be in safe and orderly classrooms and are fine with discipline as long as it's fair. I also heard people ask, well, what if students retaliate against teachers if they get a failing grade? If we imagine that 10% of a teacher's classroom earned a failing grade and all of them decided to take it out on their teachers in the surveys, that would equal only 0.5% of the teacher's evaluation. I've heard many people talk about the importance of uplifting student voices, but I see very little evidence in our policies that we actually believe it. Obviously, adults know more than kids when it comes to what good teaching looks like, and we should have more of a say. But students also have a valuable perspective, and it would be wise of us to listen. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next we are going to hear from speakers who identify themselves as students when they checked in this evening. If the speakers will please state your name when you come up to the microphone. I'm going to go ahead and call the student speakers who are here present right now. I have Kai Henson, followed by Leon Garza Lopez, and then Josephine Guzman. So is Kai Henson here? Are you Mr. Henson? Oh, yes, sir. Come on up. Okay, bring the microphone down to a little bit. There you go.
Hello, I'm Kai Henson, and I am from Frank Black. And the teachers, they just hand us a packet, like the DOL, and it's worth 60% of our grade when really it's just supposed to check where we are in the lesson. And I think if kids don't understand it during the DOL and they understand it after, then they're going to fail the class, and then they don't get to go on. And instead of the teachers actually standing up and teaching us, they give us a packet and we just do it all by ourselves. They don't even read it to us sometimes. In one of my classes, all he does is give us a packet, and then the class is pretty much done with the DOL after that. So it's bad. I don't get to learn anything. And with the projects, there's no more projects anymore like there used to be. There used to be a lot of projects where I loved it and I was excited to come to school, but now I'm really not excited to come to school. I think
Thank you. Okay. Our next student speaker is Leon Garza Lopez, and he'll have a translator. Okay.
Hola, soy León Garza López y hoy quiero hablarles sobre nuestros maestros porque es importante que tengan un buen ambiente de trabajo. Ellos nos enseñan con paciencia y cariño. Espero a veces enfrentar situaciones difíciles como falta de respeto, maltrato o demasiada presión. Como falta de respeto, esto hace que se sientan tristes o cansados y eso no es justo. Así como nosotros necesitamos un lugar seguro y feliz para aprender, nuestros maestros también necesitan un ambiente sano para enseñar. ¿Cómo podemos ayudar? Respetándolos, escuchándolos y siendo amables con ellos. También podemos hablar cuando veamos que alguien los trata mal porque todos merecemos respeto. Si nuestros maestros están bien, nosotros aprendemos mejor. Cuidemos a quienes nos enseñan para juntos construyamos el futuro mejor.
Hello, I'm Leon Garza Lopez. I want to speak about our teachers and why it's important they have a good work environment. They teach us patience and care, but sometimes they teach us with patience and care, but sometimes they're confronted with difficult situations like disrespect, mistreatment, and an excessive amount of pressure. It's just not fair. As we need a safe learning environment, they need a healthy environment to teach. How can we help them? We can respect them. We can hear them out. We can be kind to them. And we can speak out whenever we see that someone is mistreating them because they deserve respect. Yes, we want our teachers to be okay. We want to learn and be better. Let's take care of those who teach us so we can build a better future.
Thank you. Okay. Our next student speaker is Josephine Guzman. Okay, can you pull the little microphone towards you? There you go. Okay, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Josephine Guzman, a student at Wharton Dual Language Academy. I've prepared a spectacular speech, no thanks to the millions of worksheets that we are required to do. Anyway, that's not the main point. See, I saw at least 5 kids the week of February 17th go to the nurse for headaches. Now, this may just be a coincidence, but it is way too rare to see. This entire school year has felt like Dr. Seuss's Whoville. Crazy. Teachers have quit, and we are constantly getting visitors. My own teacher, Mr. Fernandez, was put on administrative leave. He would give us the autonomy to choose how we organize our work. He would still teach us everything the administrators wanted us to do. Therefore, he was doing the required and using his teaching style, too.
Thank you. Okay, our next student speaker is Hira Malik. Hira Malik has arrived. And then Eliana Gottlieb is here. So, Hira Malik. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. Good evening, board members. My name is Hero Malik, and I'm a senior at Carnegie Vanguard High School. I want to speak tonight on behalf of the teachers who can't be here today but remain failed by this district. Strong teachers are the backbone of a student's educational outcomes, but their support and mentorship extends beyond the classroom. There are people who students rely on for a helping hand when things aren't right at home or when it's just not your day. And I can confidently say, as a student in this district for the past 12 years, that in the past 2 years, I have seen more teachers leave than ever before, qualified teachers at that. And the proposed teacher excellence system will only further that exodus. I truly believe that the targeted distribution system is just another chaotic evaluation tactic designed to scare staff and pit them against each other for a better rating. Why is competition being prioritized more than healthy collaboration? Classrooms are being micromanaged with scripted lessons that don't give students the individualized mentorship they need. Is this what success looks like? Is this what learning is? I urge this board to genuinely put students first and reconsider.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Eliana Gottlieb.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Good evening. My name is Eliana Gottlieb. I'm here to ask for guidance on how DOLs should be graded. I've been talking to other students and teachers, and there's confusion district-wide. Here's my personal story about DOLs in math. Most of my algebra class is a lecture and a follow-up worksheet. We typically have 5 to 10 minutes left to do our DOL. The DOLs are always exactly 5 questions and are about what we learned that day. Getting 1 wrong is an 80, and 2 wrong is a 60. My teacher uses these DOL grades as a significant portion of the final grade. Even if we do well on the regular tests and quizzes, a few bad DOLs tank our grades. This has made math extremely stressful for me and my friends, and what was once a fun and interesting subject for me is now one that I do not enjoy. I have heard at some schools DOLs are as much as 60% of the final grade. I understand that the DOLs are supposed to help measure how well new concepts are understood. They are not tests. Please understand your lack of guidance here is negatively affecting the learning environment. Please provide guidance on if DOLs should be graded and how much of the final grade they should be. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'm checking. Emily, there's no more student speakers, right? And none on Zoom. Okay, so we're going to switch to our adult speakers. Oh, Angie, you have arrived. I'm recognizing that. You've been here for a while. Okay, we're going to start with William Morphy, who's identified as speaker number 1, and then I have speakers through number 8, but if number through 10 can come forward, and then we'll progress through the numbers. So, Sarah, if you're speaker number 1, please come on up. And you can go ahead.
Thank you, and thank you all for your service. I'm here to echo what a lot of these kids are saying with an issue that's going on at my students' school. I'm a parent at the Wharton Dual Language Academy, and we have a problem with teachers leaving. In a recent interaction with an HISD representative, the teachers at our school were characterized by that individual as unicorns, given the fact that they need to be certified, dual language capable, versed in the international baccalaureate system that we use at the school, and yet we are losing these folks. They're part of our family, and Wharton is better when it stands together as family, but we need to keep these teachers around, and to the extent the evaluation system is causing them to move out, something is wrong. There's an incongruity there. We need to keep good teachers in our school, and we need some flexibility in helping them if there's some way that they're somehow falling short, although as parents it's tough for us to see it, to be quite candid with you. They've been around a while. But we need them to stay with us, and we need to do something about that.
Thank you. Okay, speaker number 2. Speaker number 2 of Group A. So the next speaker I have is Michelle Williams, followed by Dana Serrano and Trista Bishop-Watt. So, Ms. Williams, please.
Michelle Williams, speaking on behalf of myself and other teachers with 10 or more years of certified teaching experience. I've worked under many evaluation systems, but TES is by far the worst I've ever seen. It's inequitable. It penalizes teachers with high-achieving students, emerging bilingual students, and frankly, parents of children. Teachers don't know how to improve because MAP tests isn't aligned to the Texas curriculum. Teachers who teach multiple subjects such as math and science are responsible for MAP, STAR, and the Campus Improvement Plan. This TES system will not attract high-performing teachers to non-NES schools and will continue to hemorrhage the hemorrhaging of experienced teachers. I have urged you to vote no to TES and to pay for performance plans so students in HISD can have a chance at.
Thank you. Our next speaker, please, Dana Serrano.
Good evening. My name is Dr. Danya Serrano, and I have been an educational researcher for nearly 20 years. I'm here because I'm highly concerned about the upcoming implementation of the Teacher Excellence System, which will evaluate teachers based in part on students' standardized tests and MAP. TES will be implemented when the certified teacher workforce in Texas and HISD is already in peril. A 2024 report by the University of Houston Research Center indicated that the percentage of teachers holding a standard teaching certificate, a predictor of student success, has significantly decreased over the last decade. HISD lost nearly half of its teachers in one summer. TES will likely make this matter worse, as I see history repeating itself. Research shows that value-added models based on teacher evaluations and higher test scores are biased, unreliable, invalid, unfair, and non-transparent. The last time HISD took this approach, they lost a lawsuit trying to defend it. I urge the Board of Managers to reject punitive and convoluted means of oversight and scrutiny. Instead, invest in restoring teacher certification requirements and fostering teachers' sense of autonomy, competence, and belonging, which are the psychological needs that
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Our next speaker is Trista Bishop-Watt.
Good evening, I'm Trista Bishop-Watt, representing Houston GPS. We applaud the continued growth in third grade reading and math. This progress is encouraging, but to meet the academic and post-secondary goals set by the board, a strong teacher evaluation system is crucial for educators' professional growth, high-quality instruction, and ultimately to drive student outcomes. Research consistently shows instruction from effective teachers is the most significant factor in student success, and the Teacher Excellence System provides a comprehensive approach to evaluating and supporting our educators. TES includes key evidence-based components, including measures focused on student growth and a rigorous evaluator certification process to ensure consistency and fairness. TES also maintains the pathway for additional funding to reward and retain effective educators through the teacher incentive allotment. Clear and thoughtful implementation of this system will be essential to its success, ensuring that educators fully understand the process, expectations, and available supports will maximize its impact and build trust. This system is an important step forward in ensuring that all students
Thank you. Okay, our next speaker is Joanna Guzman.
Hi, good evening. I'm Joanna Guzman, mother to a fourth grader at Wharton Dual Language Academy and a former HISD teacher. My daughter, Josephine, spoke earlier this evening. She has been directly impacted by the unprofessional, stressful, and toxic environment that Dr. Veronica Celadon has helped to create since becoming a new principal this school year. We have seen the stress on our teachers' faces and heard it through our children's experiences. My daughter has spoken to me of the constant interruptions from administration and the worry that the students experience for their teachers. Her teacher, Mr. Fernandez, has become the collateral damage of Dr. Celadon's poor management skills. I implore you all to learn more about the history of Mr. Fernandez's excellent teaching career and the circumstances of this year with Dr. Celadon that brought him to no longer be my daughter's teacher. I beg of you to complete a thorough investigation, in which I have no doubt that you will see he should still be in the classroom educating our children. Teacher retention in schools across the nation is already a most difficult task, and what we have seen in HISD in the past 2 years around teacher retention is grotesque. You all have the power to help salvage my daughter's school year and a most important relationship.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Dr. Denise Wilborn.
Dr. Wilborn, page 8 of the TES guidebook, page 32 32 of the agenda packet. Research has shown that on-the-spot coaching, also known as in-the-moment coaching, can be highly effective in improving teacher practices and student outcomes. From this same referenced and cited research of Kraft, Blazer, and Hogan's meta-analysis of 60 studies revised in 2017. 1. Although these findings affirm the potential of coaching as a development tool, further analysis illustrates the challenges of taking coaching programs to scale with maintaining effectiveness. 2, the total hours of coaching, we fail to find any evidence in support of the hypothesis that coaching must be high dosage to be effective. 3, an approach taken by many districts is to fold coaching into
Thank you. Our next speaker is Nancy Podish. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Nancy Putch, and I am a mother of 2 beautiful children that attend HISD. The last time I was here, I was concerned about the principal and teacher turnover in HISD. There are many reasons for this, but I want to focus on the teacher evaluations that many parents do not seem to be aware of. We were told that spot checks occur on a monthly basis. However,
I'm going to pause you, ma'am. I'm sorry. The kids up front, and could y'all just stand? I'm having trouble focusing on what you're saying.
Oh, okay.
Kids, would you mind just standing over here all together? Thank you. Okay. Let's start from the top. Okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
We were told that spot checks were on a monthly basis. However, what parents don't know is that there's still observations going on, sometimes multiple times a week. I have yet to hear arguments about how this benefits teachers and students. We have teachers in kinder that have no TAs helping them, teachers with dirty floors and carpets that they sometimes have to clean because resources are tight at these schools. And now they have to worry about getting graded on an evaluation system that seems to not take into account the school's autonomy levels. So it's no wonder that these teachers are worn out. I read an article recently, and I quote, HISD is giving some principals stipends of up to $11,250 for limiting enrollment declines on their campuses. I have a better idea. Ask Mike Miles to resign. Thanks.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Melissa Yarborough. And then I have Mindon Tran as our next speaker. Yes,
Good evening. The superintendent says that HISD teachers had low expectations for kids experiencing poverty and that he is here to save them with his high expectations. Sorry, wow. This false rationale is the whole basis of removing experienced teachers and doing this strange experiment to replace them with unqualified novices and a scripted curriculum. What he either fails to understand or refuses to tell you is that he is the one with the low expectations for kids in poverty. We, ELA teachers, we expected all our students, to read entire novels, to discuss them deeply, to create and share their ideas. Now, he came in and turned it all to test prep, daily test prep, and he'll give teachers low evaluations if they tried to hold kids to those high expectations that we intrinsically do. So we don't need an unqualified superintendent who thinks that all kids can't learn the same as rich kids. We need a superintendent who believes in the brilliance and potential of all kids.
Thank you, ma'am.
Not reduce their education to
Thank you.
star test prep.
Thank you, Ms. Yarborough. Okay. Ms. Mindon Tran. Is she? Mindon Tran?
Hi, Mindon Tran, HISD teacher. Pay for performance does not work, period. Schools are not businesses and should not be treated like businesses. Schools are communities. Schools succeed when teachers, students, families, and administrators collaborate with students' best interests in mind. The proposed teacher evaluation system seeks to have teachers compete with one another rather than work together toward a common goal. By rewarding a few teachers and threatening the rest with termination, you're going to see teachers hiding resources, hoarding materials, and not helping their colleagues. Who would want to help their competition at the risk of losing their own job? You lose the community when you threaten the community. You didn't get real input from teachers about this evaluation system. Your fake survey didn't give teachers any real choice. It was like choosing if we preferred to be eaten by sharks or electrocuted by a sinking boat. Bring back consultation with the union so that the professional teachers can have input on how we teach our kids. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that concludes the speakers who are present for the A group. So next, we're going to move to those folks who are on Zoom. So I think Ms. Smith, I don't know who you want to call first, but go for it.
We also have 2 students on Zoom.
Oh, okay, great. Are we going to do them first? Okay.
Maria. Naya.
Naya. Dewart.
Sorry, yes, just give us 1 minute. She was waiting and had to go back. Here, Naya. Okay. Want me to hold it? Here you go, Deepest. Okay, go ahead, Naya.
My name is Naya, and I am 9 years old. I love my teachers because they help me learn and grow. But the teacher excellence system, TES, is not fair to them. It makes teachers compete instead of working together. That doesn't make sense. Mr. Miles, you are acting like this is a chess game and you are the king. The king has power, but it's not very useful because he can only do one tiny step at a time. You are changing the rules of the game to move however you want. But guess what? Pawns can make a difference too. And no matter how much power and money you have, we will still stand up for what's right. We need teachers who help each other, not ones forced to compete. If we don't change TES, good teachers will leave, and we, the students, will be the ones who lose. Please do what's right to fix this. Thank you.
Thank you. Adita Sage Bittner.
Can I start?
We need to see you. Can you turn your camera on?
Can they see? No. They can't see it? Oh, they can't see it? Hold it.
We need you to turn on your camera so we can see you, so you can get started. Are we on with the Bittner folks?
Maria Benzon.
Yeah.
Ms. Benzon, can you fix your camera? We can't see you.
Do you want to come back?
Let's come back.
Okay. On this.
What's that?
Are there any other student speakers? No. Okay, let's go on to another Zoom speaker.
Oh, it looks like we got
Okay, Ms. Benzon, was Adita Sage wanting to utilize her minute? Let's come back. They seem like they're out of zone.
Okay.
There's no Wi-Fi or something.
Let's see.
I'm sorry, accidentally muted. I'm so sorry. Are we okay now? I'm so sorry.
No, you're breaking up, so we're going to give you a chance to maybe get to better Wi-Fi, and then we'll come back, so stay tuned.
Good. I'm logged in on Zoom if you want to look. Adita Sage can use mine. Yes.
Shannon Swoop. Shannon Swoop, can you turn your camera on?
Sorry, coming. Bye.
Please go ahead.
Okay, sure. Shannon Swoop. I see a newly added item for auditing a purchasing process, assuming this is the $1 million oopsies that Mike Miles and the administration had. My concern here is focusing on the purchasing process. While that's important, it's definitely missing the mark. We are wasting resources to review transactions and paperwork. Real issue lies in the process, not in the process, but the behavior of the personnel. It is the actions, the attitudes, and the ethical decision-making of individuals that shape how processes are carried out. No amount of scrutiny on purchases can address the cause of inefficiencies and corruptions. Please prioritize this audit on personnel behavior, examining accountability, decision-making, and whether employees are upholding the values and integrity and transparency that you should demand. By auditing the personnel, we address the human element that really drives the effectiveness of this process. Only then can we ensure that purchases are executed ethically and in the best interest of HISD. Let's not get lost in the details and forget the bigger picture. Lack of concern and disrespect.
Okay, are we going back to
Claude Bittner, if you could unmute yourself and begin.
Okay. Hi. My name is Claude Bittner. I'm a parent of an HISD student and a proud graduate of the High School for the Performing and Visual Arts. My teachers nurtured my love for music, shaping my future and leading me to sing in the Houston Symphony Chorus for over 20 years. Since the takeover, teachers are scared of getting bad spot scores instead of focusing on inspiring students. They scramble to put on the dog and pony show before district visits, hiding novels and following scripted lessons just to avoid punishment. This fear-based system crushes creativity and drives great teachers away. Now HISD wants to make it worse with a bell curve evaluation system, pitting teachers against each other instead of lifting them up. Great teachers know their subjects, their students, and how to spark real learning. They need trust and support, not arbitrary rankings. For the future of our kids and our schools, please vote no on item 3. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have speakers 10 through 15 in person.
Do what?
Speakers 10 through 15 have arrived in person.
Okay, have we fixed?
No more on Zoom.
Adita, Sage, and
They're not
Benzon? No? Okay. Okay, speaker number 11. I'm sorry, that's not right. 10, Megan Hokum? Doctor? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, thank you. Good evening. My name is Dr. Megan Hokum. I have a graduate degree in public education policy as well as a PhD in K through 12 education administration. But more importantly, I'm a parent and a former employee of HISD. I'm here speaking on behalf of parents, students, and community members of West Briar Middle School. Our school is in crisis. Since the TEA takeover, West Briar has faced relentless instability. Teachers are leaving, leadership is inconsistent, and morale is at an all-time low. A thriving school is built on stability, community, and trust, yet those have been systematically dismantled at West Briar. Parents, students, and teachers have voiced concerns repeatedly, but we are ignored. On March 7th, we sent a letter outlining these issues, signed by nearly over 400 parents, students, and invested community members. We kept student and staff names anonymous to protect them from retaliation. HISD leadership can no longer dismiss this as just a loud few voices. The time for action is now.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Anna Heinzelman, number 11. And if numbers 12 and 13 wouldn't mind coming forward. Yes, ma'am, please go ahead.
Hi, my name is Dr. Anna Heinzelman. I'm a professor, and I'm a parent at West Briar Middle School. We are alarmed by the ineffective and damaging treatment of staff, which has created a punitive and bullying culture. After the forced resignation of our principal last year, turnover reached 47%. This year, we expect even more losses, including veteran teachers and administrators who have been critical to West Briar's success. These educators bring years of experience, strong community relationships, and deep institutional knowledge, yet they are being dismissed. Forced into rigid lesson structures and given little flexibility to meet their students' diverse needs. Staffing levels have dropped to just 79% of what they were last year. Our teachers deserve respect, they deserve support, not policies that drive them away. HISD must take immediate action to stop the exodus of these qualified teachers.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Kelly Bleeker.
Kelly Blickery, parent. This teacher exodus directly harms our students. Since last year, Westbriar has lost its social worker and wraparound specialist. Now, nearly 1,000 students are left with just one guidance counselor. We've lost a reading interventionist, 3 special education teaching assistants, and a special education teacher. The consequences are clear. Fewer adults to supervise students, more disciplinary issues, and reduced support for academic, emotional, and behavioral needs. Safety has taken a hit too. With insufficient staff, critical areas like the cafeteria and drop-off zones lack proper supervision. Are these cuts about budgets, mismanagement, or both? HISD must address the root cause of this crisis.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Brooke Longoria. I have speaker Brooke Longoria. Are you Miss
Shay Nagel.
Okay.
13.
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Shay Nagel, Westbriar parent, certified English teacher. Instead of receiving a well-rounded education, students are stuck in endless test prep. Engaging lessons have been replaced with lengthy, error-ridden packets. Teachers are unable to adjust instruction to meet students' needs because of a rigid one-size-fits-all schedule forced across all subjects. Students report wildly inconsistent instruction. How can we expect them to succeed when the system is working against them? HISD claims teachers have autonomy while forcing them into scripted lessons. The district is stripping away real learning and replacing it with standardized worksheets and AI-generated materials. This is not education, it is neglect.
Our next speaker is Nicole Perry.
Hi, my name is Nicole Perry. I'm a concerned parent of my daughter at Westbriar, and I have a child at Westside as well. We demand immediate action from HISD. Support teachers by addressing the toxic work culture, publish a real retention plan, and balance accountability with trust. Prioritize student learning. Allow teachers to differentiate instruction, stop the over-reliance on testing prep, and restore whole child education. Provide transparency. Share a staffing comparison from last year, explain the budget changes, and present a clear plan to stabilize Westbriar Middle School. These are not radical demands. These are the bare minimum expectations for a functioning school.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Michelle Jackson.
Michelle Jackson, concerned parent at Westbriar Middle School. Westbriar is deteriorating, and we refuse to let it continue. Parents, students, and teachers have spoken. HISD cannot continue dismissing us. This is not just a Westbriar issue, it is an HISD issue. If it's happening here, it's happening elsewhere. Leadership instability, excessive staff turnover, and harmful policies are weakening schools across the district. On March 7th, we sent a letter outlining these concerns, signed by nearly 400 members of our community. West Division Chief Casey Bailey's response acknowledges turnover but ignores its causes. It claims teachers have autonomy while enforcing rigid mandates. It points to outside support while failing to address the staffing crisis. HISD leadership insists everything is fine, but the bond referendum failed, student sickouts made headlines, and now these numbers prove otherwise. Words are not enough. HISD must act now to do what is right for us.
Thank you. Okay, Ms. Smith, were we able to get Adita Sage and Ms. Benzon on, or no? What's that? I don't, are they like on somebody else's phone or something? Okay, I mean, if you can identify, let's get them on and they can, yeah, that's fine.
only 1 minute. We were waiting. Here she is.
Okay, this is our last, okay. Hi, Adita. Go ahead, sweetie.
Hi, my name is Adita St-Fitner, and I'm a 5th grader at Condon Elementary. My teacher makes learning fun, and because of her, I want to be a neuroscientist. My teacher helps me understand my emotions, think creatively, solve problems, and grow my confidence. But if teachers are judged by a system that doesn't measure what really matters, we'll lose more great teachers. I want a teacher who cares about me, not just about some test score and spot score. But if teachers are ranked against each other on a bell curve, that's not fair. It forces them to compete instead of working together to help all kids succeed. Imagine if students were graded on a bell curve. Some of us would have to fail, even if we worked hard. That would be unfair. Schools should be a place where teachers learn, where kids and teachers grow, not be forced into a mean ranking system. Teachers need support and trust, not a system that discourages them. Please vote no on item 3.
Thank you. Okay, is Dr. Ben's on? No? Okay. All right. I think that is all of our speakers for tonight. Thank you very much. Tonight we have a public hearing posted for 5 p.m. for a discussion of the Texas Academic Performance Report as required by Texas Education Code 39.306C. Superintendent, you have the floor. I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry, sir. I didn't see you. Come on up. Sorry.
Okay. My name is Guy Buford. I'm from Key Middle School. 34 years of teaching. Love teaching. My salary has been cut by $19,000. By $19,000. When you first came here, you said that the people in the first 8 NES school, the salaries would not go down. I should have had a tape recorder so that I could keep that. But my salary has gone down. I was making 75, then I was making 81, then I was making 90. Now I'm down to $71,000. Treat my salary like it's yours. That doesn't make any sense. If you don't think I deserve that, I do. I don't think you deserve the salary that you make. But does that make any difference? Give me my years that I've been working. 34 years. I deserve that as a teacher. Not because what somebody else thinks. I need my money.
Thank you, sir. Okay. That concludes our speakers in Group A. Superintendent, you've got the floor on the academic report.
Yes, I'm going to ask Justin to come to the podium and show a few slides.
Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead. You're introducing yourself.
My name is Justin Smith, and I serve as the Executive Director of Assessment, Accountability, and Compliance here at HISD. And my team coordinates and puts this report together and publishes it. And so we just want to do this is a public hearing about our district annual report. The largest of that is TAPER, which is required by Texas Education Code, Chapter 39. This code, this report is put together at both the state, the district, and the region level. It includes information about PEIMS as well as student assessment data, and is disaggregated with different student groups, including racial, students with disabilities, ECODIS, as well as ELL and EB. The full report is available on our HISD website, on the Assessment, Accountability, and Compliance website. And when you look at that report, it will include these 8 sections, and it will be a full report, and you can download it, and it's available.
Is there anything you want to highlight about it?
More than it's a very large document with a lot of financial information, a lot of information about our campus improvement plans, and so there's nothing in specific that we want to highlight about it, but that it's available for everybody's view.
Okay. Any questions, comments, concerns? All right. Thank you very much for the presentation.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on to item number 1, the acceptance of board monitoring update, presentation of goal 1, progress measure 1.2, and goal 2, progress measure 2.2. Superintendent Miles, is that you or somebody on your team? Thank you.
Madam Vice President, members of the board, I'm here to cover the progress monitoring reports, 1.2, or goal progress measures 1.2 and 2.2. Just as backdrop for our goals, the NWA MAP assessments we took in January, end of January, beginning of February, and we have the results, and you've had some other reports about it. What's important here tonight is that we look at the meets and or exceeds grade level, which is an achievement, not so much a growth measure, but an achievement measure of proficiency. And so it's correlated to the STAR exam, and so that's why we chose it as a growth progress measure. So 1.2, you see there on the screen. I'm going to get this larger here. 1.2, as you can see on the screen, is reading for NWA 3rd grade. And you'll note that we started with our 18% end of year, and then would reach 38% in May 2028. Started with 18% beginning of the year because we didn't have an end of year report at that time. The end of year was 24 the first year, and we're still trying to reach our goal of 38%. This meets grade level in reading for NWA. What you should note on the right-hand side are 2 things. One is the middle of the year compared to last middle of the year. And so at this point last year, or close to this point last year, we all students had 22% meets grade level, and this year that is now 38%. Now when you compare the middle of the year, remember this is an end of year target, and we're giving you the middle of the year, of course, but end of year target is 23. We're already above that. So you can see the difference between where we are right now. We're already 15 points above the end of year. So at some point, we may have to bring this back to the board, but right now, those are the targets that the board set, and that's where we are. What's good about this data is that you can see that in our subgroup data, our subgroups are also doing really well. Our Black students and our Hispanic students in particular grew 20 points over the end of year targets already and 15 points respectively. So we're hoping our end of year targets are even higher for meets and exceeds grade level. So this is a proficiency measure. The next slide breaks it down a little bit more, and you can see there on the left-hand side where they are proficiency-wise. So our students in the PUA schools, that's the gold bar, are higher proficient, have higher proficiency than our NES students. On the right-hand side, you can see the change, though, from one year to the next, and our NES students are doing stronger change or improvement in proficiency from one year to the next. That's reading. Some of the reasons, we've talked about these things before, and it's not any one thing that will help us get to where we need to be. All the things you see there we've talked about before, but what I want to emphasize tonight is that it's all of the above. It's not just the instruction, it's also the curriculum. It's the science of reading focus. It's the expansion of the dual language model. It's the supports that NES provides. It's the ensuring that you have teacher apprentices. It's all of the above put together that helps us get the results we've been getting. 2.2 is very similar. This is about math, though. Again, there's a good correlation between the meets grade level as calculated by NWA and the STAR meets grade level. So that's why we use that as a progress measure. And so the progress measure specifically here is math, and in going from end of year to end of year, we need to get to 32% in May 2028. And you can see in math the same thing. If you look on the right-hand side, the two columns, middle of the year now compared to middle of the year a year ago are the two columns there where you see MOY. And this year, as far as proficiency goes, we're higher by 11 points from last year. Relative to end of year target, we're already above it. We're above it by 15%, all students. Our Black students, 14%, our Hispanic students, 15%. And our white students, 24%. So even our subgroups, all students is good, and our subgroups are strong. If you look at this again, the left-hand side is where are they with regard to proficiency? And our PUA schools, you can see, are outpacing our NES schools, and that's been the case for a while. Although NES growing from one year to the next in proficiency is pretty impressive. So we're growing out, the subgroups are outgrowing our top performers, although our top performers in proficiency are much higher. And again, the reasons are very similar in math as they are in language arts, and except in this case, it's not so much about the science of reading, it is about having a good curriculum, good instructional materials, making sure those PowerPoints and the materials are tied tightly to the TEKS. Good quality instruction is probably the number one reason, and then all the supports that come with that good quality instruction. And so that is my progress monitoring report for today.
Thank you. I'll open it up for questions, comments. Anybody? Mr. Vaughn?
Thank you, sir, for the presentation. Always good to see our students progressing in the varying ways that they do. My concern tonight is more about predictors of success and making sure that what we share is helping us to inform decisions about how we go forward and how we improve things from here. So whether or not we're exceeding our expectations from where we started, there might be noise in the number just because we didn't know our starting point. However, I do want to make sure that we stay focused on the goal, which in one respect we did achieve last year, in one respect we didn't, and that the focus around our monitoring is intended to help us predict and say, yep, we're going to hit the goal. And so I know that we've got some working groups scheduled to have conversations about that. I wonder also whether or not NWA has done any analysis on that noise at some level to see, now that we know we've got correlation, sort of how we should be thinking about that.
So the correlation between grade level, meets grade level or above and STAR has been done by NWA, and that's why we actually can report that. Not all states have that because their tests aren't all correlated, but this one is correlated. So the meets grade level and above is correlated to STAR. You're absolutely right. There was noise in the beginning because we didn't know where we would end the year. We started with beginning of the year data, and then we set targets. And if we, in a perfect world, we would have waited to the end of year target, thank you, end of year target to say, okay, 5 years from now, where we should be. So we're going to try to correct some of that. You'll see that in the next presentation. And you've been on the committee and others have looked at it so that we can adjust the rigor. Because already beating 32, while that's good for our students. I mean, that's real growth. That's real achievement. But we want to keep pushing. And so if we're already beating the 32, then we should set a higher target. So we're going to bring that to the board as well here shortly. And I think if the board is willing, as we go along in the next couple of years, if we see, that it's like steady state, right? We might adjust it too hard, just too low, but we'll hit the right thing after a number of tests. If the board's willing to make it even higher, if we're already hitting the end goal, then we'll do that. But these are done based on what the board set, and we didn't want to change those arbitrarily, and hopefully the board will look at the changes we're going to bring later today.
Any other questions, comments? Yes.
Thank you. A lot of good news in this progress measure report, so thank you. The item that, if you'll go in the presentation to the administration response for a reading, I think, because it's similar. The root cause, yeah, analysis and key actions. So I appreciate the emphasis around the point that these need to work, these work together, right? That you can't just do one of these things and move towards the type of outcome improvements that we see. The one that I'd like to understand better around how the administration thinks about this is around the additional supports for NES and the Focus 25. The idea there, as I understand it, so correct me if I'm wrong, is that those additional supports, including adults, in the school, right, are what are helping to improve the outcomes for our students. That's one that has a direct tie to dollars, right? Number of people in the school.
That's right.
And so my concern there, and there's, I guess, different ways to look at this, but if we think about the sustainability of this model and how we're going to do this in the future. Also the idea that we have our PUA model where we don't have those adults. And I think that I was reminded of this with some of the community comments around concerns around, let's say, maybe not having enough people in the school. So what is the administration's view on this? Because in one case, I see this as it's investment. It's investment in our schools that have needed additional help, have lacked investment in the past. But at the same time, we know that we're in a very financially challenging environment. So as we think about the upcoming budget and discussions like that, I'd appreciate understanding some more around how we're going to manage this. How much does this piece of the puzzle, contribute to student outcomes? And when we start to potentially pull this back, what negative, how could that negatively, impact our students and so on?
Yeah, those are really important questions. Let me take a stab at an answer. You're right to point out, as I have too, that all of these things fit together. It's not just one thing. The question focuses on the supports like learning coaches and teacher apprentices, for example. And yes, that's a big part of the additional cost of NES. It's the additional people. There's a footnote on that. Let me just say right now, and then we'll get back to the point. The footnote on that is the staffing model that we use for NES is tight or rigorous and frugal in the total number of FTE. In other words, if you could, in many of the non-NES schools, refigure the staffing model to have apprentices, but you wouldn't have other people doing other things. You might have fewer office managers. You might not have a testing coordinator. You might not have an additional elective teacher. I mean, there's many other things that we could do, but we have defined autonomy around there. Still, having said that, there's no question that the teacher apprentices and learning coaches that the NES schools have is additional FTE and costs some money. What is the degree to which the outcomes would be gotten without the apprentices and learning coaches? The model is designed with teacher apprentices in mind. It's a different staffing model, and I don't think we would get as high results without teacher apprentices and learning coaches. We would get higher results because of the other things, also curriculum, real good focus on quality instruction and things like that, yes, and differentiated instruction. The model is good using team centers, but it wouldn't be as good without the teacher apprentices. One of the biggest things, for example, with teacher apprentices is we don't have substitutes in the 130 NES schools, or very, very rarely would we have one. Maybe at the high school, because the 11th and 12th grade are not covered by the apprentices. But in the elementary and middle, we don't have substitutes at all. And that's a good thing, because when there is a need for a sub, the teacher apprentices already knows the students, they already have the curriculum, it's already provided for them, they just step right in, and you wouldn't be able to tell a teacher apprentice from a teacher at that point. And so that's been a good thing. You don't have to combine classes, et cetera, et cetera. So that's been great, and it is a good thing. Long term, and we talked about this, and so I don't know if an NES school would ever choose by themselves to go back to non-NES. I doubt they would. If you're going to get an A and B status for 3 years in a row with teacher apprentices, with higher salaries, with learning coaches, with the curriculum provided for you, why would you go back and lose that? So I doubt that's going to happen. Is it sustainable? You'll see in the documents that we have prepared for you for the sustainability discussion of the budget. It's certainly sustainable as it is today. Will it be sustainable if we add 20 NES schools? We would have to, I don't know is the answer to that question, because we didn't run the analysis for that, because we're not doing that at this point. So it is sustainable. What can we do for non-NES schools with regard to teacher apprentices or learning coaches if we think that is part of the difference? So a couple things. For the special focus schools, as we get resources without making them NES, now here's another footnote I just want to make sure we're clear on. If a special focus school drops to an F, we will probably make them NES as long as there's no more than 5, because the budget for next year, we want to be conservative on. But there's 25 special focus schools. Without making them NES, what can we do? One of the things we can do is provide some teacher apprentices. That we've already talked about that. So we'll look closely at our budgets and the need in the school. We may trim down extra programs and others to pay for that from those special focus schools. Because in NES world, there are no extra programs like, a special after-school tutoring program. There's no differentiated, instruction program. It is just in the model itself. Anyway, we may be adding teacher apprentices to those schools, and maybe, depending on how well these teacher apprentices show in those schools, the other NES, the other non-NES schools, we may consider adding resources to those schools so that they could do teacher apprentices if they wanted to.
May I clarify one more thing? Related to that, I think is the concept, I think that I've heard many talk about, which is smaller class size leads to better outcomes for students. And so if the ratio of student to teacher is lower, in this case because of the apprentice and the teacher in the classroom, is that comparable to the argument for a smaller class size? Is that what we're doing there?
So yes and no. The class size that we shoot for NES is still 25-1, and the PUA schools have some leeway in that. So some of them have smaller class sizes, some a little larger. But you're right, while a teacher apprentice is there, now remember, there's only one teacher apprentice for every 100 students. So every classroom does not have a teacher apprentice. And there's one learning coach for every 100 students. So even then, every classroom does not have either a learning coach or a teacher apprentice. And they have different roles and responsibilities, especially during the second half of the class where the learning coaches are in the team center. Still, it is good to have an extra support person, some of them certified, many of them not. I'm talking about teacher apprentices. They're working towards certification, most of them. And so it's good to have that extra support in the classroom, and that, in a sense, lowers class size. But it's not like having 2 teachers with 12 kids each instead of 1 teacher with 24 kids. It's not exactly like that.
One more clarification, please. So to make sure I understand what you're saying, is it correct to take away that in the POA model, then because of the autonomy that schools would have, they could choose to shape the model in a way that starts to resemble an apprenticeship type model like we have in NES?
They could. They couldn't replicate it exactly like NES because they wouldn't have enough money to do that. But they could have 2 or 3 teacher apprentices. It's a matter of what they choose how they staff and what programs they buy.
Thanks. There's a point here, I guess I want to make sure I understand, which is if this is a model, right, where we want to show that this is a model that is working for kids, and we know that districts around the U.S. are looking at us. I'm hoping to understand a bit better what pieces and parts, districts might be looking at and saying, oh, I want to copy these items here on the board, but I can't do it all. Therefore, I'm going to try to do the top 3, but I can't do number 4.
Yeah, that's good thinking. And yes, there are numerous districts across the country looking at NES. And I try to answer the question, and it's hard because I keep saying it's a system. But if you had to do 2 things, focus on the quality of instruction, number 1, and that usually doesn't cost that much. It costs effective training, consistently applied across the system. And number 2, teacher apprentices. The staffing model is important. And then the question becomes, well, how do we pay for it? And the answer is you prioritize, the effectiveness of the classroom teaching and the quality of instruction. So, you have to cut central office staff or do whatever you have to do, but you prioritize that.
Okay. Yes, Dr. Arnold.
Thank you. I want to ask for you to remind me, under the model, why teacher apprentices don't cover 11th and 12th grade?
Because the teacher apprentices are most helpful with what we call the LSE model, that part where it's differentiated. So and usually it's teacher apprentices in schools where a whole bunch of kids are struggling. In the high school, even in the NES orbit, there's the 11th and 12th grade are not your typical, 90-minute class in the core subjects. That's where we have the teacher apprentices and the learning coaches. And many of them are doing the specialized electives or career tech ed, CCMR, those courses, or they're doing internships. And so that group of students, 11th and 12th grade, don't have the same need for the supports as the 9th and 10th graders. That's why.
Any other? Yes, Mr. Martinez.
Thank you, ma'am. Help me understand, Superintendent, on page 5, figure 7, and make sure I understand it correctly. When we look at PUA campuses, we're actually seeing a decrease in percentage change. Am I interpreting that correctly?
Yes, so 1 point for our white students and 1 point for our eco-dits in the PUA schools.
Do we have any hypothesis as to why that may be occurring? And again, it's granted, it's 1 point, but it's still not growing, right? So is there a hypothesis or reason why that may be occurring at the PUA campuses?
Yeah, no, I don't have a hypothesis. I would say 1 point is nothing to worry about when you're already at 81% meets and exceeds grade level, and so that's why. I mean, they're already high to begin with, so change from 1 year to next is a little harder.
And the reason I hear what you're saying, the reason I'm also obviously concerned is last year we weren't able to make it, but obviously we see improvement in middle of the year. With regard to our goal, we actually decreased by 1 percentage point. So although it's 1, it's still 1, right? Yeah. And so I think that's important. And I see kind of the similar trend on slide, page 9, figure 12, when we talk about math. Again, we're seeing improvement, but the PUA campuses are not seeing, and granted, again, NES campuses are not as proficient, so we're going to see that opportunity to grow a little bit more. But again, just a hypothesis there.
Yes, I mean, I'll try to choose my words carefully so I don't get anybody angry for no reason, but the focus on instruction and the differentiated instruction makes a huge difference. And so in the NES schools, while we have done things across the board, which people have gotten angry about as far as improving the quality of instruction, there's no question that in the NES orbit, that the focus and the feedback and the supports on instruction are intense but also effective, as well as differentiated instruction. And those are things that any school could do. I mean, a non-NAS school could choose to use a model that differentiates instruction for the kids who are behind, because oftentimes, even at 81%, there's probably a gap, right? An achievement gap of sorts, and so maybe the kids who are behind need differentiated instruction. They're not getting that, generally, in the PUA schools versus the NES schools. So the model works. It actually works for all kids. It's a strong instructional model and strong differentiated model. And that's probably why you see the difference.
Sounds good. I'm trying to just think about, as we move forward, I think one of the questions Jeanette brought up was just about like additional resources we could provide to PUA campus. And I think while we're still giving their autonomy, right? I don't want this to be a conversation where we're going to now implement NES at PUA, because that's not what the community wants. That's not what I want, and that's the autonomy that's been kind of promised as well. But I think it is important for me as we move forward that we consider these opportunities to at least clarify what resources are available at the PUA campuses or how they can change their model, because I think that's the big thing. But the one thing I would also ask is, as we move forward, again, we're only in year 2, but that we identify if there are things to identify, but how we could differentiate, because what I hear and what I see sometimes, Superintendent, is that yes, quality of instruction is important, and we said that since the very beginning, right, that we were going to do that. But are we perhaps, with some of the things that we're implementing at NES schools and then also implementing at PUA campuses, are we impacting them negatively by trying to kind of require that PUA campuses also kind of mimic some things of NES? I guess that's the question.
Yeah, and I think the one thing, first of all, the data doesn't bear out a lot of negative impact. We went from 93 A and B schools to 170. You just saw the Children at Risk report highlight many of our top schools. There's an ERG report that's out. I sent it to the board that highlights many of our top schools. Our top schools are still our top schools. So the part that does intersect is when we talk about instruction. And we're talking about just basic instruction. Basic, meaning this. I can't walk into a school, and neither can any of the instructional leaders walk into any school anywhere in the world, including in HISD's 273 schools, and see a teacher who's not engaging kids, where the kids are just doing whatever, sitting on the teacher's desk and the teacher's sitting back with his heels up, and kids not doing anything. We're not going to do that. So if that is what is meant by, yes, we got to make sure that that's not NES. That's just good quality instruction. And so that's what we're going to enforce throughout. But there has not been much else on the A and B campuses that are that violates their defined autonomy. In fact, you haven't heard much from the community regarding the defined autonomy violations. The instruction's the only part, and that even in the defined autonomy document says that's a non-negotiable in this district. We're going to have good quality instruction. So having said that, as we get out of our budget hole, and hopefully we'll bring the board a balanced budget or near balanced budget this year, as the board hopes that we will, or is encouraging us to do. As we do that, as we finally get increases to the basic allotment and money from the state, which has not been coming for 5 years, as we dig out of the ESSER misuse of money, we will be able to provide the PUA schools, the non-NES schools, with additional dollars to do instructional things. Right now, you'll see when we bring it to the board, we're going to continue to pay for some things that are really important for the non-NES schools, like the curriculum, IB program, AP exams, magnet subsidies, small school subsidies. We're doing that anyway, and that is also money to help non-NES schools do what they need to do to improve their programming. So we'll do that. Unfortunately, we're in tight budget times, and we're going to have to bring a balanced budget. And to be fair, we got a little spoiled during ESSER, and so let me just cut to the chase and say, in the end, I think it will be prudent for the district to provide more instructional money for the PUA schools to do what they think is best.
Yes. And with just one last comment. With regard to root cause analysis, I think what might be helpful for me is if we could perhaps differentiate by sub-pops. And I know, again, a lot of these things impact all of the students. And the reason I say that is because probably if I was to look at the root cause analysis over the last 3 months, 4 months, it's the same one every month. It's the same thing. So just be able to kind of identify some things month to month when we review these things. That may be helpful for me. Yeah.
Okay, any other comments, questions, concerns? I have just one thing. When, I think you were on slide 5. Can we go to that real quick? And this is somewhat related to Mr. Martinez's comment, but if we just look at, by way of example, the economically disadvantaged numbers of kids, we can see that the number of kids in NES schools that are economically disadvantaged is very close to the number in the PUA schools, which is, for me, where this concern about making sure that we're supporting those kids in the best way we can, because I know 1 point decline in the Hispanic population on on English that's shown on this slide. It may be a rounding error, frankly, but we want to make sure that those kids are also supported. And the EcoDis who lost a point, they're not performing well, so we want them to perform well too, even in our PUA schools. So I think that's, I think it's worth looking at that issue.
Yes, and I keep in mind, we're pretty prescriptive in the NAS orbit, and we're prescriptive because there's so many kids who are behind. And we have a differentiated model because there's so many kids who are behind. And those things work. We're not able to be as prescriptive, and nor should we, in the A and B schools because of defined autonomy, and that's a good thing. Where it might not be as good, one portion, is on the kids who are so far behind, the achievement gap. So you notice in the defined autonomy, we say that if there is a gap in achievement, we still don't take their autonomy away, but we ask them to address it in their action plans. And we oversee it a little bit more, but again, we're not going to be prescriptive on how you close the achievement gap. What is required is high quality instruction for the kids and your strongest teachers teaching the kids who are furthest behind. And not too many schools want to do that. They want to keep their strongest teachers in their IB or the AP or whatever, honors courses, et cetera. The other thing that's important is to use a differentiated model for those kids. Use additional interventions during the school day, like Zern or a mirror or something like that. That's also what's required to get kids the gap closed. So I suspect that 1 point, or that's not a lot, and we've recognized that, but if you want to move that up, then you're probably going to have to do some things for the kids who are most behind. That's the answer. And so we want to be reserved in how we approach that and do a lot of coaching and training, but not a lot of insistence.
Okay, anything else? Okay, thank you very much. So we are going to move forward, and I don't know, do we need to hit my computer? Okay. Do I have a motion to accept the board monitoring update presentation of Goal 1, Progress Measure 1.2, and Goal 2, Progress Measure 2.2? I have a motion by Dr. Arnold and a second by Ms. Lindner. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Uh-oh, mine's freaking out. Okay, let's see if this works. Okay, motion passes 6 in favor, 2 absent. Next, we're going to be talking about agenda item 2, and I am asking for a motion to accept item number 2, report from the board audit committee chair, including the final activity funds process report. I have a motion by Mr. Martinez and a second from Ms. Flowers. Is there any discussion about this item? Or did you, as chair, want to say something about it?
I'll just add, we've included the latest audit committee report in the agenda, so if anyone had any questions on that, I'm happy to address those here. And just as a clarification for those paying attention, we did have 2 reports that were presented in the most recent audit committee meeting, but the extra duty pay report that was presented as draft was not presented today for acceptance because the department wishes to add some additional information to their management response. So not a concern from an audit committee perspective. We appreciate that they're paying close attention to that and taking, the guidance and advice that that's been received. So that'll just be presented the next meeting or the next time we can get that on the agenda.
Thank you. Anything for Ms. Lindner? Okay. We have a motion by Mr. Martinez and a second by Ms. Flowers. If there's no further discussion, please vote. Okay, motion passes 6 in favor. Next, we will consider the remaining action items on the agenda. Board policy requires that board members abstain from all discussion and votes pertaining to contracts that might involve a conflict of interest. Board policy BBFA local defines a conflict of interest as any circumstance that could cast doubt on a board member's ability to act with total objectivity with regard to the district's interests. We have 3 items that are withheld from the consent agenda. We're going to start with item number 3, approval of the Teacher Excellence System for school year 2025 to 2026 implementation. Do I have a motion to approve this item? I have a motion by Ms. Flowers and a second by Ms. Lindner. Are there any questions or comments regarding this agenda item? Mr. Martinez?
Ma'am, thank you.
Alyssa.
Go ahead. Sorry. Let me just say that I'll repeat what we said last time during our last workshop, that this is, it takes a lot of work to get this much feedback from 3,000 participants. So I think overall you did an excellent job, your team as well, of making sure that voices were heard from all teachers, whether that's core subjects or electives. So thank you for doing that. It takes a lot of work. And we also got input from SDMCs, which is comprised of parents as well. So that was good as well. I do have a couple questions for you. So I know a couple of changes, and I wanted to discuss them. I think they were providing the final draft updates, in which I'm glad that they were out there. Specifically as it comes to the distinguished teacher review process.
Yes.
It looks like we changed that, right? And so can you explain how the update versus like the principal nominating versus the self-nomination? If you can explain that a little bit.
Sure. So we didn't actually change the nomination process. The way the DTR system works is the top 30% of teachers at middle of year in student achievement and quality of instruction will be invited to apply for the Distinguished Teacher Review process. Then their principals will have an opportunity to say, yes, I am excited to recommend that this candidate go through the process, or no. We would typically hope to see that principals would typically say yes, but in case there's something that we're missing, it's helpful to always know. And then teachers will submit an application online. They just need to give us, we want to make it as easy as possible. It could be a bullet point list of the things they're doing on campus that are contributing to the learning, their own lifelong learning, contributing to the leadership on campus, and also potentially leading at the district or beyond. So they get to list those things out, and then we score them on a rubric. So the changes that we made from the first draft to the final draft, previously we had said a teacher would need to write a one-page statement detailing their application, and we were just reflecting and thinking, can we make that a little bit easier for teachers? Our goal with DTR is really to reward the teachers for doing amazing work they're already doing, not create more work for them. So that was really the only change we made.
Sounds good. And then I know that, Superintendent, you mentioned that I think there's only a handful of districts across the country that are doing pay for performance. Have we kind of looked at studies to determine like how this will help with retention and attraction of teachers?
Yeah. Yes, sir. So probably the best example is Dallas's system, which has several similarities. Started in 2013 and is still going strong. And based on their long-term experience with this similar type of evaluation system, teacher retention is much better than across the state of Texas. I mean, it's still just like everywhere else. It's still a little higher than it was just a few years ago, but I think they're around 17% or 16%, whereas most districts are at 20 or 22%.
Okay. That sounds good.
But even more important is they retain their strongest teachers, their most effective teachers.
And then just as we move forward in implementation, talk to me about the process that we're going to implement with regard to any corrections to the process, how we're going to continue to seek feedback from stakeholders.
Yes, absolutely. Our goal is really, the success of this program is in the implementation, right? I mean, I feel really proud of the work we've done with the community to design this, but that won't matter if we don't implement it the way that we are supposed to and the way that we've outlined, right? So we're taking the implementation very, very seriously. When I think about the implementation, I think about it in kind of 3 phases. One, there's right now, so there's the planning, and we're continuing our work with our trailblazers, with our TES trainers, where we meet with one representative from every campus. We're continuing that work monthly this spring to start to make sure we're answering commonly asked questions, start to ask them, hey, what kind of training materials would you really want to make sure you see this summer? What's going to be really important in implementation? So we're doing that whole planning process, continuing to hear their voices this spring. Then in the summer, we really move into the training phase, right? So that's where we really need to make sure that every teacher completely understands the system, and we'll leverage our TES trainer program there. We'll train the representative at every campus to make sure that they are able to communicate the program to their schools. And then also the TES certification process for leaders to make sure they're prepared to be effective evaluators. Then the year starts, and that's when we're doing our continuous improvement. So there's a couple things there. First, we are going to continue our TES trainer program for the specific purpose of making sure we have a constant line into how implementation is going on the campus. So we're going to be meeting with the TES trainers at least quarterly, and it's going to be a 2-way feedback session to be able to hear, hey, here are the things we prioritize this semester with TES, here are the big things we want to make sure you're aware of, but also create space for them to tell us how it's going on their campus. And they will be expected to go to their campus, collect feedback, and bring it to us just like they've been doing the last few months. So when we receive feedback, if there's anything we need to tweak, we will hopefully be able to find out in a quick way and be able to very quickly action it. If anything were to change, we have to make sure that it's communicated effectively. So we don't take changes very lightly. If anything were to change, we will create a video, as we've started to do this year, when any minor changes have happened to the spot form, for example, explaining the change, make sure teachers can see it, understand it, and we would only do that as a result of data and feedback. So that continuous improvement will happen throughout the year. And then internally on our team, we also have to have continuous improvement spaces to analyze the data at middle of year and at end of year to ensure that the data is actually accurately identifying the teachers who are the highest performing, right? So we constantly have to check that our metrics are working in the way that we intend for them to. And we do that right now with LEAD as well. We're doing that process for our principal evaluation right now. It has to happen every mid-year, every end of year to make sure it's effective.
Anything else? Okay, and I'll recognize that Rick Campo has joined us, so welcome. Okay, yes, ma'am.
Thinking about the videos, just update on how's it going in terms of collecting those videos, and then do teachers have access yet, or do you have a line of sight of when they will?
Yeah, great question. We have a team that has put together a big project plan for that. So we've collected around 10, 15 videos that we feel good about so far, but we still need to collect probably about 30 more this spring. And that involves us, scheduling time, doing the edits, and making sure that the video is high enough quality so that we can accurately understand what's happening in the classroom. We can hear the kids talking to be able to calibrate on the spot. So those resources are not yet live. They have started to go live to leaders as we've, like for example, today we trained on a spot calibration in assistant principal meeting. That video is already live for assistant principals and principals. But on the for teachers only website, that's where all of the videos are going to be once they're ready.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Arnold.
Thank you. I have a question about Group E2, U.S. History and Biology Advanced Placement in IB.
Okay.
How can we guard against potentially students not taking the exam or being in the course if the thought is that you could be penalized or not sit as high in the system if you don't have as many kids scoring above a certain level?
Yeah, it's a tough one. We try to strive for metrics that that incentivize growth as much as possible. It's really difficult with AP assessments because there isn't a pre-test really for AP classes. So right now, the way the metric is written, we score teachers based on the percent of their kids who achieve at those high levels. And that does raise the question of, how do we make sure that we're making sure that kids show up for the tests and things like that. We're not introducing perverse incentives. We track whether or not our kids are sitting for those assessments really carefully. Our goal is really to make sure that any student who has that opportunity is taking the test. I will say that the AP question has come up, and we're continuing to look at if there's other things we need to add into the system, checks or balances, because I acknowledge that that is something really important.
Got it. Thank you. And I also have a question about Group F.
Yes.
To follow up on Mr. Martinez's question. I know that there's a comprehensive list of options. Will that be changed from year to year? My concern is expectations and making sure that teachers know what the expectations are at the beginning of the year and at the end of the year.
Yes. The goal would be that any change that needs to happen would happen before the beginning of the year, so that teachers are starting the year with a very clear menu that isn't going to change. We've done a ton of focus groups. We've done a lot of work within our own departments to make sure the metrics are strong. We're going to continue to look at them over the next few months. But during the year, we really want to keep things standard for the teachers. And then, like I said, at middle of year and end of year, we'll always look at the data and understand, are there certain metrics that are stronger than others, and do we need to make tweaks for the following year? We do try to keep things consistent during the year. Yes.
Ms. Lindner? Oh, sorry, if y'all had a worked out order.
Thank you. I hope two things. One, I hope to address the item that Trustee Gomez shared, a question about the student survey. If you could just remind us where that went, because I believe we talked about it, and then I'll one short one as well.
Yes. Yes. So we said from the beginning that we were going to be really clear about what parts of the evaluation system were core, right? We said quality of instruction and student achievement are the core. They have to be the majority of any evaluation system. Other than that, we were leaving a portion of the pie to really be decided on by the teachers and by the leaders. And we were really building this with their voice. And when we asked them about student survey, the answer was a resounding no to include it. That being said, it's a really effective tool. Actually, research shows that students really do know how their teachers are doing, and we think it's a really great tool. So we are going to continue to offer it, and any teacher who wants to take it can. We are going to keep it as part of the Distinguished Teacher Review. So if you are applying to be a distinguished teacher, you will need to do the student survey. But at this time, our HISD community said it's not the right time for student survey, and we're just respecting that.
Thank you. One more item, kind of a comment really, but I want to just express my gratitude. Again, we've all, and Rolando mentioned this as well, but having gone through my own organizational change in my own work this year in parallel to watching this, this develop, I really appreciated the similarities I saw to how a change was rolled out, how feedback was collected, how voices were recognized and heard, and the structure you put around this to ensure that one, I'll say, no evaluation system is perfect, and I think any of us in the community who work in an organization, lead an organization, understand that. But from what I've seen so far, the attempt to try to recognize the concerns and address how we're going to incorporate feedback and continuously improve this is really important to me, and I hope that that's something that the community will begin to recognize as we continue to talk about it. And two, I'm really excited for, personally, my kids to experience an organization that is moving toward measuring performance, that they're going to experience the result of that, because we're preparing them for a world of work. And part of that success in the future is understanding how we're going to work and collaborate together. And so I really appreciate what I've observed so far, and I'm excited to see it in practice.
Thank you.
Ms. Ozanne Bandy?
Thank you. Thank you, Deputy Chief, for all this information, all the hard work. I wanted to ask, go back to the student survey, because my school's own SDMC met, and part of what they came up with was having a student survey piece. And so I appreciate you talking about the value of it. In what ways can we capture student sentiment? It doesn't, doesn't have to be any evaluation, just how do we capture student sentiment and report out on it?
Yeah. No, it's a great question, and it is so important, right? I mean, we are here to serve our students. I think that hopefully over time, the student survey will reach a greater number of kids. I do think that student survey is a really effective way to understand student sentiment. From the central office, really that's when we think about trying to understand the voices of 76,000 kids, using a survey tool is really, really powerful. But on the campus level, I think there's a lot that can be done as well from a leadership perspective. I know when I was a campus leader, we did a lot of student focus groups and, asked students questions about different initiatives that were coming on in our campus. And so I know that's something that division chiefs care about, chief of schools office cares about, and something we're going to keep trying to incorporate as well. In the evaluation system, one piece where I hope student voice enters the picture is also through the distinguished teacher review process, because we are identifying teachers who are going above and beyond to serve kids even outside the walls of the classroom, right? And so student voice in, how effective is this extracurricular activity, or how effective is the mentorship I received. I listened to students talk tonight about how, they have teachers on their campus who they go to all the time with different things happening in their own lives, and I hope some of that to be captured on the distinguished teacher process.
And if you don't mind, Madam Vice President, I would also say, we're trying to honor teacher sentiment right now, or their feelings about student surveys. I think in every district I've been in, and in my own network, we did student surveys all the time. They don't have to be part of the evaluation system.
Right.
But this next year, we want to ease into it, because there's not a lot of clear understanding of what it would look like and how the research is. The research is pretty clear if the questions are done well, and we would get them from a nationally known company, Panorama, that does this across the country. It's not so much about, do I like my teacher or not? It is about the learning environment. So I think once the teachers see that over time, that they'll see that it's really not a threat, especially if you're, an effective teacher or even halfway effective teacher. But it does provide the teacher and the school with information from the student perspective, which is always helpful. Yeah. So at some point, we may just do it without it being part of the evaluation system. But let's give it a year to where people can get used to what it actually is.
Yeah, and we did pilot it this year with our Trailblazer campuses. And, some people were probably apprehensive going into that process as well, but overall, we've gotten a lot of positive feedback from that process, and teachers have seemed to value going through that data, regardless of what it says.
Thank you both. Trailblazer campuses,
The Trailblazer campuses are what I call our kind of special advisory cohort. That was the 19 campuses who selected to be part of more intensely part of the design of TES. So we've been meeting with them monthly since August. And as part of being a Trailblazer, they said, yes, I will pilot student survey, because when we were forming the Trailblazer committee, it was very much still part of the realm of possibilities that student survey would be in TES. So we wanted to get data on it.
Okay, so we are doing it with that subset. Is that what I'm hearing?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when is that going to take place? Just during the evaluation?
So this year they took it in November, and then they'll take it again at the end of the year.
Oh, okay. Have we seen that? Have we seen that data?
I'm not sure, but I'd be happy to get it to you.
Okay. I'll be requesting it.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Okay, anything else from my colleagues? Thank you very much. I echo everybody's comments on the thoroughness of the process. I think it was really good, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Before we take a vote, we have one speaker who didn't get identified earlier who's speaking on this agenda item, so we're going to call her. It's Anita Wadwa, and she is by Zoom, so let's call her, please.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Board of Managers, I love books. I have written and taught books, but because of HISD's evaluation system, Pershing decided not to teach novels until after STAR. TES relies on problematic spot scores to evaluate teachers, ensuring only a limited number can be rated exemplary, while others must be rated poor, regardless of effectiveness. A bell curve does not ensure quality. Your phrase inflation prevention assumes an entire campus cannot be filled with highly effective teachers. TES ties teacher ratings to high stakes tests. One of my daughters opts out of STAR and MAP. It's her legal right. Yet you punish teachers for a parent's moral objection to these tests. To end, I would like you to find an evaluation system that supports teachers who want to teach books. I think books should be taught in schools. I like reading. Will you fight for books? I think books are good.
Thank you. We have one other person who wasn't able to join us earlier, but is now apparently online. Dr. Benzon is on this agenda item, so let's hear from her as well.
Dr. Benzon, please turn your camera on.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Hi, my name is Dr. Maria Benzon, and I am a former school leader and a professor in teacher education with a PhD in educational psychology. I know that evaluating teachers based on spot scores and high-stakes tests is disastrous. Administrators without certification shouldn't judge expert teachers. I know that evaluating teachers based on a bell curve isn't elegant. It is destructive. It forces competition over collaboration, crushing morale and driving great teachers away. I know that scripted curricula and fear-based evaluations will dumb down what our kids can achieve. Instead, we need a growth-oriented system, one that values teacher expertise, supports professional development, and measures student progress through authentic learning, not compliance. Mr. Miles' system is a disaster. It disregards teacher autonomy, devalues student potential, and prioritizes control over education. We must demand better for our kids, our teachers, and our future. Vote no on item 3. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, no more speakers on item 3 as far as I can tell. Any other discussion from board members on this item? Okay, then we've got a motion by Ms. Flowers and a second by Ms. Lindner. So with no further discussion, please vote.
Let's go do it. Yes.
Okay, motion passes 8 in favor. I am going to turn over the meeting to Mr. Campo. Thank you.
Well, thank you, and I'm sorry I was late today, but the traffic was crazy coming here from Hobby. The next item on the agenda is item number 4, which is consideration and adoption of revised goal progress measures. I'd like to invite Superintendent Miles and Ms. Rachel to present an executive summary. I know we talked about this at length before, but let's go ahead.
Yes, sir. So Justin Smith will be prepared to answer any questions.
Perfect. Thank you.
Just waiting for. All right. Hello again, board members. Again, my name is Justin Smith. I'm the Executive Director of Assessment, Accountability, and Compliance. And over the last several months, my team and I have been working and reviewing and going over, trying to refine these goals. The objective of that is to make sure they're aligned and that they keep pushing us towards better outcomes for students. On this slide, you'll see an overview of all GPMs, but the ones in blue are the ones that we're considering for revisions. This process has been very collaborative. We've actually taken 3 major steps. The first step is we've met with a subgroup of board members. We brought recommendations. They gave feedback. We brought recommendations. They gave feedback. And we've made adjustments to these over time. Additionally, we've met with our TEA board coaches and have aligned to make sure these goals are aligned with the best practices of Long Star governance. They have approved the recommendations that we're bringing to you today. The third thing we have done is in February, the team brought before the full board all of these recommendations and had a deeper conversation about each of them. And so today we feel confident in what we're bringing forth. Additionally, there'll be a second part of this where I'll talk about the actual revision to the calendar. So there are 3 core revision types that we're bringing today. The first one is a revision of targets, and that is affecting 2.1 and 2.2. The reason that we're revising targets is that we've exceeded our initial 5-year target. And so we want to keep building on that momentum and make sure that we're continuing to push ourselves towards success. And so because we've met those, we've revised new benchmarks and new targets as we progress to 2028. The second category is revisions around our growth metrics. This affects 3.1, 2.3, 4.1, and 4.2. As you remember, the original goals were written with CGI, which is growth, conditional growth index, and we've really worked really hard to make sure that we've revised this to be more improved visibility and transparency and alignment with growth to make sure that Board Member Ravon might say 1 + 1 is 2. Like, how do we make sure that this is actually pushing us towards the goal? The third category is adding metrics for college readiness. This is about 3.4 and 3.5. As you know, goal 3 is our college and career goal, and a lot of those metrics are about high school. As you know, in our other goals, we get to talk about 3rd grade. We feel that it's incredibly important that we don't leave out 4th through 8th grade, and that because we believe that our kids being strong in those areas is going to be a key indicator for college readiness. And so we've included a 4th through 8th grade map goals for that. Here's a summary of all of what we brought to our workshop of all the GPMs in their current metrics, the proposed language, and the proposed targets. This is what we brought both before the workshop, as well as we've gotten approved through our Lone Star governance coaches. The second thing is our Lone Star governance calendar. The biggest change the reason we're making change here is really about data availability. We want to make sure that when these items come up, that the data is actually available for us to get it to you. And then secondly, making sure that you're getting that data as quickly as possible. Meaning that if it's a BOY metric, we don't want to wait several months for you to get a BOY metric. We want you to get it as soon as we can get it to you so that we can talk through it, ask questions, and make sure we make necessary adjustments. Again, this calendar has been shown to our Lone Star governance and TEA coaches and have been approved to move forward to the full board. This highlights the changes that, again, were brought before the full board at the workshop, and I think I'm available for questions.
Board members, questions?
Thank you, Mr. Smith. I have to take off my glasses now. I have a question about 2.3. The way that it was provided to us specifically states, you read there, the recommended will increase from 51% to 53%. I want to make sure that that's right, because when you look at the approved target, that's 55%. So I'm just trying to make sure I understand that clearly. So is it 53%?
It is 53%.
Okay.
We believe that percentage growth over time is still rigorous and in alignment with the type of growth that we see from our the STAR redesign. We're mimicking that, and that's the type of growth that we believe we can see. So that is correct.
Okay. And then 1.3, there's an x-axis and y there for a beginning and starting point. Do we know what that number would be?
For 1.3,
Yeah. It has excess from June 24, which is last year. Do we know what that would beginning?
the XX would be the 41% baseline.
Okay.
And the YY would be the 56%.
Okay, that's right. Okay. And that's why I was asking about the other one, just to kind of match up there. And then, if you could, and I think we did talk about this last time, but if you could just re-explain things to me, why we're looking at second grade now instead of third grade.
Great, I think that's a great question. And so we're looking at second grade because, again, we believe that our ability to indicate this early gives us more time to intervene. And so, and when you take this, and when NWA does second grade, they actually project those students for third grade STAR. And so those projections allow us to say where our students are in second grade and what things can we do to make sure they're ready in third grade. It gives us more time to give them the supports that they need to meet that goal.
All right, sounds good. And then really the next comment is really for the board. I mean, 5 is a lot, right? For go number 3, that's a lot. I mean, I appreciate that TA gave us an approval for that, but that's a lot. And again, just to toss it out there. I mean, if we're comfortable with it, we're comfortable with it. But that's a lot, and that's just a question for the board. Thank you.
I want to clarify 2.1. Rolando, I didn't understand the answer. Are we saying the target is, sorry, not 2.1.
1.3.
2.3, yeah.
1.3.
53, 2.3.
I'm sorry, yes.
Yeah, is it 53 or 55? Because the table says 55.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. The actual starting baseline is 51, and the long-term goal is 55. I'm sorry.
it is 55.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm sorry.
okay.
So then we need to make the change to
We'll
that
make the
and 1.3.
adjustment here. Correct.
Gotcha.
There's going to be two, well, to the extent we vote on this, have you already called a vote?
We have not.
Okay. Okay. I will be making a motion to amend 2 parts of this document.
And we'll make that change.
To clarify, or to understand, Rolando, the caution flag you're waving around the additional measures, may I assume that if the administration's presenting this, then you've accepted that you're okay with tracking this many
We believe it's the
progress
right thing
measures?
to do to make sure that we're measuring 4th grade through 8th grade. I see Superintendent might want to add some context to that.
We track it anyway.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
We're data hungry, right? We're out there
Right,
for a lot
yeah,
of things.
that's why we track it anyway.
We track it anyway, we just want to bring it before the public.
Okay, any other comments or questions?
Same point, I don't know what other amendment or revision you were talking about, Audrey, but 4.1, we say we're starting at 48% to 60%, but the approved target over there says 55.
Yeah, let's get this fixed maybe I'm sorry, I'm talking too much, but
that's
I
fine.
would
Go ahead.
suggest we take a pass on this one. Maybe you could provide Katasha with the corrected version of this summary, and then is this what we're voting on, this summary, or what are we where's the actual document that we're voting on? Is it the summary?
It's the
And this is this is
just
the
a
thing.
summary.
So where's the metrics?
The other,
What's the actual document that we're adopting? Is it this summary, or is it?
This is in the attachment.
So it needs to be corrected.
So let's fix it then.
We'll get it.
The challenge with trying
should be AE
to
local.
delay this, I think we ought to have the proper
agree.
numbers that are.
As amended, yeah.
As amended,
Yeah.
right? But the challenge here is that this is an important thing to get done, especially with our Lone Star governance checklist coming up in April.
I think we knew it right now. I
can, that's good. Perfect.
I would like you to print for us a corrected version of this, so we're approving the right thing.
All right, we will do that.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions?
Any other questions? Go ahead, Mr. Vaughn.
And just from a process standpoint, so whatever we vote to approve then goes to AE Local
Yeah,
for an update on the actual goal document.
which is what I thought I think that's what we actually have to approve, is the amendment to AE local. This is not that.
We can bring back the amendment on next Wednesday to AE local, if you want us to do it that way.
That's fine. Well, could we vote on it next Wednesday?
I would vote, just so we're in line
Would
with
vote
our,
today.
if your intention is to approve it, and then we will bring back AE local with the correct notations in it for approval next week.
I'm okay to approve the corrected version of this
Yes.
summary. Yeah, okay.
Anybody else? Okay, well, why don't you make that motion?
Well, we're gonna still deal with it in this meeting. We just,
Yes.
you can skip, you're in charge.
I can skip. Skip and
Go to 5.
So we're not going to make this motion now? Or we're gonna
Yeah,
do
well,
that?
let's come.
Okay, got it. Okay, well, let's then go to 5. Now, 5 was summarized as well, right, which was the approval and adoption of the proposed revisions to the Lone Star Governance Monitoring Calendar, and that was discussed a minute ago. Why don't you flip that back up?
Yeah, I just need them to put it back on the screen for me.
So here we go. Are there any questions, board members, on this calendar? And the idea
No.
clearly is to try to get information quicker and not delayed.
And as I understand it, the LSG coach has approved this as, even though it may differ from what the normal LSG process is for our purposes. So I'm
Yes.
comfortable. Thank you.
And I'll just make one quick comment. I guess because we're able to add additional GPMs, to me, that's evidence that LSG is flexible. Right? So it is flexible for us. It's not a rigid framework.
I think it is.
Right, there you go. So just, so as we
As
move,
it should be.
right, as we move forward, that's something to consider.
Life is
Thank you.
Right. Okay, any other comments or questions? If not, let's get a motion on number 5. Let's go back to my computer, I guess, and, okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other questions or comments? All in favor say, I'll go ahead and vote then. Let's vote. Okay, and the motion passes. Okay, there we go. Okay, we'll just come back to that other item then. Thank you.
Okay, and the edits have been made to the other item. And I'll put it,
Can we get a copy? Can we get
yes,
just like
I will get you a copy after.
Yeah, print it out. and We'll just take it later after we do speakers.
Let's go to consent.
Okay.
Just go on, we'll come.
All right, so now we will hear from our remaining registered speakers, beginning with those who are in person for both the agenda and the hearing from the community. They will be followed by the speakers who are on Zoom. We'll call the persons, in-person speakers to the microphone in groups, beginning with the speaker from number 1 through 10. We have seats in the front row reserved for the next group of speakers, so please occupy those seats. If you're up next, please state your full name, and before beginning your remarks, please come to the microphone in your numbered order.
We do
Ms.
have one
Smith, go ahead.
student who's arrived, so we can call Luca Candida first.
Could we have 2 minutes, please?
We're going to do 1 minute at a time and then translation for 1 minute.
Pardon?
Yeah.
Oh, it's going to be Spanish with the translation.
Mi nombre es Luca Candida. Aunque en nuestra escuela Warden no se ha visto tan afectada como otras, los cambios del currículo y las reglas de HISD están creando mucho estrés para los estudiantes y para los maestros.
My name is Luca Candida. Even Wharton School hasn't been affected too much like other schools. The changes in the curriculum and the rules of HISD have been creating a lot of stress for students and teachers.
Dos de mis compañeros se cambiaron de escuela este año.
2 of my classmates changed school this year.
Muchos de los profesores que nos gustan y que son muy buenos ya se han ido y otros están pensando en irse a finales del año. También se irán más estudiantes.
A lot of teachers that we like, and they're very good, they have left. And another ones, they're thinking about leaving to the end of this year. And also, a lot of students will leave.
Por favor, escúchenos. Somos nosotros quienes estamos sufriendo lo que están haciendo. Gracias.
Please listen to us. We are the ones who are suffering for what you're doing. Thank you.
Speakers 2 through 10, please move to the front.
All right. Catherine Donis. It sounds like me gold by the evil leprechaun Miles. It looks like me gold. The BOM I managed, did they know where I came from? Did they know that my Colorado charter schools had a deficit of $450 million? More gold. The board of managers, I wasted $470,000 in taxpayers' money to start in a musical play. A play written by Me. Looks like me gold. I drastically laid off certified teachers, principals, custodians, and staff in HISD like I did in Dallas ISD. History repeats itself. I got my power back. My board of managers, the ones I managed, previously approved my spending of $870,000, more gold. The forest was shrinking, but the trees kept voting for the axe. For the axe was clever and convinced the trees that because his hand was made of wood, he was one of them.
Thank you. Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Maria Soto?
Go ahead.
Good evening. We are here and we'll keep coming again and again until we take back our school, Wharton Dual Language Academy. NES influence has entangled Wharton. We are pushing back, but it is not enough. Not yet. Parents, we have no hidden agenda. Our only mission is our children's well-being. We will not stop until we see real, tangible change. We will keep coming until all targeting of all teachers and staff ends, until our children can freely lead with questions and be the inquirers they are meant to be. We will stand here until IB is not just a distant ideal, but a living, breathing reality from PK to fifth, fully and unapologetically present. See you soon, unless you choose to see us, hear us, and act. Wharton.
Thank you.
All right, good evening. My name is Eckhart Stock. I'm a partner of two in Wharton Dual Language.
There's a lot of things to say about HISD and the situation, but I'm choosing to speak only about my school today, the school of my kids. There's something going on, something wrong. So I'm encouraging you guys to find out, to dig in and realize what's going on, what is happening and who is causing all the trouble. So it's not my job to tell you what to do, just to suggest you to find out. There's some people here that is already in there, so find out what's going on. Treating bad our teachers is not okay. Intimidating the teachers is not okay. As parents, we are here to support the teachers because the teachers make the education happen. So they are the link between your idea and the kids are the teachers. So we need to support the teachers and we cannot tolerate disrespectful treatment to the teachers.
Thank you.
I'm your retired school nurse speaking to the district improvement plan that you guys had posted. I know it's just checking a box because the items you've listed, like special ed, still not in compliance. Is it for some zip codes and not others? The other item you have, expansion pre-K 3 and 4. Are you going to do it for all my children or just certain zip codes? That teacher evaluation, scratch that. We don't have any qualified educational leaders to develop it, let alone implement it. So just scratch that one. Stakeholder engagement, you have got to be kidding me. The DAC committee is made up of yes people. How's that for the rest of us? So the street committee has a plan for you. We're gonna put you on an improvement plan. We suggest you just pull up this educational circus and move elsewhere. I hear Memphis loves you, Mike. Why don't you give them a try? We're already telling people in Austin about you, so you might want to try Memphis. They seem to like you.
Thank you.
We need 2 minutes, please. Okay. Miles prometió que no tocaría a Wharton, que nuestra escuela seguiría siendo un lugar de aprendizaje y crecimiento para todos. Sin embargo, hoy enfrentamos una realidad preocupante. Tenemos una directora que en lugar de fortalecer nuestra comunidad, ha creado un ambiente tóxico para nuestros maestros, dañando años de arduo trabajo de educadores y familias. Desde que ella llegó, más de 9 miembros del personal, incluidos maestros con más de 20 años de experiencia, se han ido. Y se rumorea que más seguirán el próximo año. Un ejemplo claro está esta situación de nuestro querido maestro de 4º grado, Mr. Camilo Fernández, que está en administrative leave. Esto no es justo. Wharton no merece ser destruida por alguien sin experiencia en liderazgo escolar. Nuestra escuela es un hogar para estudiantes y maestros dedicados y no permitiremos que la toxicidad que la consuma. Exijo cambio real. Te cambio a Mr. Fernández por Celedón, que esté fuera de nuestra escuela. Es hora de defender a Wharton.
Miles promised that he would not touch Wharton. Our school would continue to be a safe learning environment. Today, we are confronted with a worrisome reality. We have a principal who, instead of fortifying our community, has created a toxic learning environment for our teachers, damaging the years of their hard work that they've put in. Since her arrival, more than 9 members, including teachers of more than 20 years of experience, have left. And there's rumors that this will continue next year. A clear example is Mr. Camilo Fernandez, our dear 4th grade teacher who is in administrative leave. This is just not fair. Wharton does not deserve to be brought down by inexperienced leadership. Our school is a home for dedicated teachers and students we will not allow to be destroyed by toxicity. We demand real change.
Thank you.
I'm Laura Henry, speaking on the TES system because as an HISD parent and a data-loving National Board Certified English teacher, I care about evaluation systems and teacher retention. The TES system continues encouraging our most experienced teachers to leave and can be gamed to the detriment of students. A full 65% of the system prioritizes teacher compliance over supporting students. The remaining 35% forces teachers to compete with teachers. Teachers tell me the scores they've been given so far don't make sense. The guidebook seems very haphazard. Just an example, category E seems very performance heavy, and it's the AP thing that I was looking at, but it's all over the place. Look at transition tables for the STAR too. So one thing that you'll notice is like kids can sit for the test, but if they don't need it for college, they don't really care about it. It's not their teacher's fault. My suggestion is that you ask experienced teachers who have been ranked highly in the past why they're concerned about the system and then listen to them.
Thank you.
Have we heard from all speakers from Group B? Any remaining speakers present?
2 more.
Your number?
16?
Jessica Campos?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Voy a dar mi testimonio en español. ¿Puedo recibir algo? I don't have to have it translated. I can translate myself. Mi nombre es Jessica Campos. Quiero que sepan que por fin, sin su ayuda, he logrado mover a mi hija de su mugroso programa NES y reporto que está feliz y está aprendiendo. Seamos honestos. A ustedes no les importa el futuro de nuestros hijos. El sistema NES es una mentira. No los están enseñando a nuestros hijos, solo están enseñando cómo pasar un examen STAR para seguir recibiendo fondos. Los números no mienten. Las escuelas NES están fallando. En el 2023, solo el 18% de los niños del tercer grado en NES podían leer bien. La meta del distrito es llegar a solamente 38% para el 2028. ¿Están dispuestos a dejar atrás el 62% de nuestros hijos? Qué casualidad que el 62% de HISD es latino. Tal vez esa es la verdadera meta aquí. En nuestras comunidades latinas de bajos recursos, el programa NES les está robando el futuro a nuestros hijos. Mientras tanto, las escuelas de HISD en zonas como River Oaks siguen teniendo maestros certificados, bibliotecas y un currículo que les permite un futuro exitoso. Están destruyendo a nuestras comunidades latinas, una comunidad sin representación, pero ustedes ya sabían eso. Ustedes pueden cambiar las políticas
Your minute is up.
para tratar de silenciarnos, pero mi gente está despertando.
Thank you.
Carly Paget, Diana Candida.
Good evening. I just wanted to provide an anecdotal story, an update, a growth progress monitoring from the people to you on the work that you've done. I parked my car outside of a Barnes & Noble last week, and I was approached by a mom. I was not in the city of Houston, I was local, close to it, close enough for this parent to approach me, and she saw my bumper sticker and told me, I just wanted to say thank you. It's a CVPE bumper sticker. She's a parent who's got 2 kids who should be enrolling next year in HISD. She grew up in public school. She is a successful woman from public school. And she will be enrolling her kids in private school because of the work you have done that she has witnessed. That's
Thank you.
Diana Candida, reading a speech by a Wharton parent because we are Wharton strong. She says, you are paid with our tax dollars, yet we have no say in who sits on the board. At Wharton, we have lost both families and teachers. My daughter's teacher was placed on administrative leave while HISD conducts an investigation. Despite this, he has already been permanently replaced. The decision has been made that Mr. Fernandez will not return, yet it appears that not all necessary information has been gathered for the investigation. Meanwhile, you continue to protect the incompetent principal, Veronica Celadon, someone you selected, not us. What I'd like to add is that the way Principal Celadon is rolling out and enforcing the HISD curriculum means not only are we losing teachers, but recruiting is difficult too. The policies rolled out since the takeover are harming Houston's children and resulting in a brain drain with the best and brightest teachers leaving our district. Respect our teachers and Houston's citizens and fire Mike Miles.
Our next two speakers are on Zoom. Dr. Bovlin, you may begin.
Good afternoon. Dr. Pamela Bovlin here. And I really don't know why I'm here, because it's not like you listen to us at all. And you don't comment on anything that we say. But I was signed up to talk about item 13 and 14, where you are giving all of the power of the agenda, instead of it being the members of the managers, that you're giving total control to the board president. The superintendent has too much control over the agenda. He shouldn't be involved in the agenda. While you continue to ignore issues such as not allowing the selling off of the property of HISD and to use that in the general fund, why you didn't go against the conflict of interest and have a real estate mogul on the financing public school facilities.
Thank you.
Sister Mama Sonia, please turn your camera on. You may begin. We'll move on to Franklin Tabarello. Please turn your camera on. You may begin.
Yes, thank you very much. Look, there's a serious pattern of financial mismanagement and conflict of interest within HISD from the top down. First is Miles' involvement in the transferring of Texas tax dollars out of state at the expense of Texas children and for the benefits of Third Futures investors, this requires investigation. Third Futures investors are not the responsibility of taxpayers, parents, and students. The taxpayer and HISD parent, I'm calling on the board of managers to push for comprehensive audits of HISD's finances under Miles' tenure. Secondly, Miles spent $870 million without board authorization. Where are the basic budgetary control procedures? These are things that the board should have voted on. When Miles began as superintendent, HISD had a projected budget deficit of $99 million, but under a year and a half of Miles' leadership, that deficit is inflated to $285 million. Return HISD to locally elected process. No democracy, no accountability, no trust.
Sister Mama Sonia.
Yes.
You may begin.
Hello. Yes. I'd like to first congratulate the Board of Managers, because I would really like to work for them, because where else can you get a review of 66% and you get $125,000 bonus? I mean, that is the best place to work with. And where else can you get $125,000 bonus and our janitors are laid off and told to rehire without any benefits? I mean, this is utopia. This is also 2025 in action, Project 2025. So I'd like to thank you all for doing what you all are doing and just running us into the ground. Running us to the ground. No trust. Oh, yeah, you forgot. No trust, no bond. No trust. Miles. Go away. Don't come back another day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sarah Miller, please turn your camera on. You may begin.
I'm sorry.
Okay. Hi, I wanted to address the bonuses that are going to principals for enrollment numbers of students for recruitment purposes. I believe that great schools sell themselves, and this decision to put pressure on principals to recruit students is really just another way for Mike Miles to blame other people for the declining enrollment. He's inspired no confidence in our school system. He couldn't even sell an education bond during a major presidential election, which should have been really easy. So I feel like parents are seeing these dystopian policies, you know, the closing of the libraries in favor of star practice passages all day and firing highly qualified teachers. And all of those things are making them decide that they can just move elsewhere. You know, we take it really seriously where our kids go to school, and people buy homes in areas so their kids can go to the very best places. And so I feel
Thank
like
you.
he needs to go.
This concludes our public comment.
Are we done now? I'm sorry. Okay, unless I was waiting for a last person. Okay, now that we're done, this concludes our hearing of public comments. We'll move on to the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the remaining items on today's agenda by consensus? Is there a motion? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Let's go ahead and vote. Motion passes. Let's see, do we want to bring back number 4 now? Do we have a printed?
Wait, we haven't seen it. I would suggest maybe we go to closed session and come back.
Yeah, why don't
That's
we do
my
that?
suggestion as well. But I did want to make a clarification. You are voting to accept the goal progress measures, so you're not voting to adopt a new policy. So you can adopt that when we come, once you have a chance to review it, you can adopt it today, or I'm sorry, accept it today. And it doesn't become part of the board policy. It's just a requirement for Lone Star governance for you to accept the goal progress measures, but they belong to the administration.
Okay. Great. At this time, the board will recess to closed session on Chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code, Open Meetings Act, subsection 551.004 through 551.089. Should board final action, vote, or decision on any matter considered in the closed session be required, such final action, vote, or decision shall be taken in an open meeting covered by this notice upon the reconvening of this public meeting or at a subsequent public meeting of the board upon notice thereof. The board is recessed at closed session at 7:48 p.m. on March 20th, 2025. How are we doing? We got everybody here? Okay. Whenever she gets here, I will. Let me see. You gonna make the motion on number 4? No, number 4, item 4, which is yeah, we're gonna do that. Okay. We're going to reconvene the board meeting at 8:29 p.m. On March 20th, 2025. So we're back in regular session. And Board Manager Mendoza just joined us, so we have a full complement. Okay, so we're going to now discuss item number 4, consideration and adoption of revised goal progress measures, and which is item number 5. So is there an approval of, we already did the Lone Star Governance monitoring, I think, didn't we? The calendar. So let's go and get a motion for number 4.
Oh, thank you. I think I've moved. Yes. Okay. I am moving to adopt. Accept. Excuse me. Oh, here we are. Oh, this says revisions. I am moving to accept the revised version of the GPM recommendation summary that we received during closed session, which I'm holding in my hand, as the goal progress measures for those that are indicated in that document.
Okay, is there any questions or comments? Okay, please vote.
Mr. President, can you give me 1 second?
Oh, you need a... Okay.
Okay.
Post it? Okay, the motion passes unanimously. All right, we're now ready to consider other items in closed session. Are there any motions to be made?
Yes, Board President, I move that the board adopt the resolution of the Houston Independent School District School Board regarding the sale of surplus real property, which authorizes the board president to complete the sale of the entire property strip to Harris County MUD 589. I have one additional one. Sorry. Oh, sorry. Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Are there any questions or comments? Seeing none, please vote. The motion passes. We have another motion?
Yes, please. I move that the board approve settlement in the case of HISD versus Sosa, case number 423CV02462 in the U.S. District Court for the Southern District of Texas.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Are there any questions or comments? Hearing none, please vote. Motion passes. Are we out of motions? Okay, good, good. Okay, so now we're ready to hear reports or comments from board members. Why don't we start at this end over here? Any comments or questions or No, you good?
Nothing. I'm sorry.
Just real quick, from the community engagement, you guys have received invitations to our student engagement session, so we are in need of 2 more board members to sign up. So I forgot what date it is. It's April 11th, yes. So if you all, we need 2 more, so if whoever wants to volunteer, sign up for that. But we're continuing to look at, consider organizations to meet with. So as we roll them out or identify them, you'll get additional invitations. Thank you.
Great. Okay, if no one else has anything, we stand adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.